All of us have gaps in our film knowledge, and one of my big gaps is Hammer horror. Even though I'm a big horror fan, I know almost nothing about these movies. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw one or maybe two of the Christopher Lee Dracula movies as a kid, but I don't remember anything about them. And I want to fill my gap, so let's start with a Hammer horror film about a lesbian vampire who gets her beautiful conquests out of their clothes. Welcome to Exploitation Reviews, and me, Rob, and today I'm taking a look at The Vampire Lovers from 1970. This is a vampire story based on the novella Carmilla, which predates Bram Stoker's Dracula by around 25 years or so. Pretty cool. At this point in Hammer Films history, they're starting to suffer a bit financially, and all of us here know the answer to that. If you want to entice people to your movies and you don't have big budgets anymore, you can do that by offering more sex and more violence, and that's exactly what they did. These Hammer films of the early 1970s really ramped up the sexiness and the violence. Exactly our kind of thing, so let's see how they did. We open with Baron Hartog talking about his sister who was killed. He tells us vampires can't return to rest without their shroud, so he steals one and taunts a vampire to come get it. The vampire enters the castle, and oh my god, is she hot! Our hero is resolute, however, and he lops off her head. As far as cold opens go, this one is really great. It's dreamy, it's beautiful, it's sexy, and super violent. Alright, we're off to a good start. Let's see if we can keep it up. We hop over to what will be the main story. At a party, a woman and her escort have to leave early, and she leaves her daughter in the general's care. That general there is Hammer regular Peter Cushing, by the way. The daughter steps outside, and this dude smiles at her. He seems trustworthy. The next night, the trustworthy guy is outside the girl's bedroom, and then, he turns into like a bearskin rug or something and covers one of the girls. Not exactly sure what's going on here. But it does give the girl a good fright. Over the next few days, this girl, her name's Laura, she gets weaker and weaker, and she is plagued by these nightmares. The doctor doesn't think much of it, and Marcilla, the house guest, is more than willing to make sure Laura is okay.
I shall never leave you. My dearest Laura.
So glamorous together.
I'll be in my bunk. But Laura eventually dies. And then the doctor finds out she had been bitten. And then Marcilla disappears. And then we see a crypt with Marcilla's name on it. The plot thickens. The Countess, the one who left Marcilla in the care of the general's family earlier, she's in a carriage accident and then passes Marcilla off to a new family of nobles. I'm detecting a pattern.
You're to stay with us.
A sexy pattern. This time she's staying with and falling in love with Emma, played by the perfectly cast, doe-eyed beauty, Madeline Smith. Just like Laura before, Emma starts to suffer from nightmares and insomnia and gets weaker and weaker. And just like before, Marcilla is more than happy to take care of her. Marcilla gets jealous when Emma talks about a handsome man that she would like to see again, and then Marcilla shows Emma what two women can do without a man. I'll be in my bunk. Actually, I don't know exactly what happened. The film is a little bit surreal, and, British censorship being what it was back in the day, it's kind of difficult to say one way or the other. But I think we all know what happened.
And I feel its fur in my mouth.
And directly after that, Marcilla gives a brooch to the Countess, and then they get it on. At least I assume so. That's what it looks like. But again, hard to say. Marcilla is insatiable. And after this encounter, the governess is now under Marcilla's control. Luckily for Emma, the butler still has her best interest in mind, and he brings the doctor around to make sure she's okay. She's not okay, and then Marcilla kills the doctor. Emma's father returns and is convinced by the butler and one of the locals that the deaths that are happening in the neighboring villages and Emma's sickness are all related and caused by vampires. So he and the general from before team up with Hartog, the guy from the opening scene, and they go on the hunt for vampires. So now all the plot threads are united, but back at the house, Marcilla has both the governess and the butler under her control, so Emma is running out of time. But that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. Well, this movie is gorgeous to look at, and I don't just mean looking at Ingrid Pitt and Madeline Smith, although they're both quite gorgeous. But no, everything about it is great looking. The exterior shots with all that lovely fog and the costumes and the castles, it looks great all the way through. And the acting here is pretty great too. I mean, Peter Cushing, he's really cool, we all know that. And I gotta give it up to Madeline Smith. Wow, she is just perfect here. And finally, I do like the dreamy atmosphere that this film has. I don't much care for the nightmare sequences, that's a little too abstract, but that opening scene, for example, with the shroud and the fog and the cemetery, that's great, and there's a few other scenes like it in the movie. Great, great stuff. But I wouldn't say the movie is perfect. Like a young noblewoman having a nightmare about fur in her mouth, this film has some shortcomings. To be honest here, the story is pretty weak, and it leaves a number of unanswered questions. Well, an easy question to start off with, who is the male vampire? He shows up a few times and stares at people, but he doesn't do anything, he doesn't say anything, and I have no idea who he's supposed to be. Is it Dracula? Couldn't tell you. You could cut his scenes out of the movie completely, and the movie would be exactly the same. That does not speak highly for the character. But, I gotta say, overall, the story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, what exactly is Marcilla's plan here? Why does she do what she does? I mean, the Countess, I imagine she's under Marcilla's control, and she gets Marcilla access to these noble families, and then Marcilla feeds on the beautiful daughter until that daughter dies. But why do that? At other times, she feeds on and kills other people, peasant girls and whatever, so what's the point of the long feeding session with the hot noble girls? I just don't get it. She seems to fall in love with them, but then if she's in love with them, why kill them? Is she trying to get them to fall in love with her so she can then turn them into her long-term vampire lovers? Okay, maybe. But then why feed and slowly kill them as part of that plan? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And that's the main story. And if the main story doesn't make a whole lot of sense, that's pretty weak. Still though, the movie looks great, and the people are beautiful, and they fall out of their dresses, and that's all very nice, so I do recommend watching it, but, don't go in thinking this is going to be like the best vampire film you've ever seen. It probably won't be. Although it might be one of the sexier vampire films you've ever seen.